White Americans have been existing in this collective shared delusion amongst each other this entire time. And that's why I find what's happening in 2026 and really what's been happening since 2016 so endlessly entertaining. Me and my mother talk about it like it's the fucking Super Bowl. Because what's happening is something that my grandparents could have never predicted, which is that finally, for once, white Americans, specifically white Americans, I'm not shading Europeans, I'm not shading Canadians, I'm talking specifically about white Americans. The collective delusion that white Americans have been living under is now starting to butt up against actual reality, and we are watching their entire collective identity nosedive and fracture and just like fragment like a fucking fractal. And it's shooting off all of these colorful ass rainbows, all of this fucking chaos. And I gotta say, I'm really enjoying the show. I mean, it's truly like the greatest show on earth because you think about it, right? Like, okay, for instance, since the days of chattel slavery, what have white men always said? Black men are the ones who are sexual deviants. Black men are the ones who fantasize about raping women and children. Black men are the ones we have to protect the women and children from. That is the collective delusion that white people have been operating under. And so they've been treating black men this entire time as if black men are the ones to be scared of. Now, don't get me wrong. I would never defend men in general in public, like capital M, man. I would never defend the man in public. But the facts are that this entire time, it's been white men, the most conservative, the most upstanding citizens of white men who have been the biggest sexual deviants. We are seeing this now. Not only are they sexual deviants, they are like apex predators of sexuality to the point where they're running whole global international fucking organizations for this shit. Not black men. Black men ain't really caught up in that shit. Some are, like Diddy. But like for the most part, the highest levels or the lowest levels, depending on how you look at it, of sexual deviancy, sexual predatory like behavior, rape and pedophilia, incest, all of that shit. Now white people are starting to wake up to the fact that they're the ones leading the charge on that. White people also love to act as if they're the only disciplined ones in the room and that they're the only ones with class in the room and that communities of color are too loud or too brash or too crass or whatever, as if like they're above us because they know how to act and like they act better, old money aesthetic or whatever, when I have quite literally never in my life seen anybody more ghetto, ratchet, fucking trashy, low down than Trump and the people he surrounds himself with. Those are the dirtiest, slimiest fucking people I've ever seen. They're way more ghetto than any hood rat I've ever met. Trying to pretend as if white people can't be just as ghetto, if not more, as communities of color is wild as fuck to me. Like this is some grade A fucking trash. And it's clear proof that money cannot buy class. That's why they hated Obama so much, because Obama put a crack in the mirror. Obama was like maybe the first modern crack in their fun house of illusions. And then Trump just like is like crashing all the mirrors down into ash. But Obama was definitely the first crack. Obama was their first inclination that, oh wait, are we in a fun house? Is everything that we believed actually the opposite? Wait a minute. Obama was the catalyst. They hated him for that. They did not want to wake up. They're like that woman in Blink Twice who worked on the island and she knew that she was under a spell, but she got mad at the main character because the main character woke her up from the spell and she's like, but I didn't want to wake up. Like that's how white people are. There's been this whole myth, this lie, this collective delusion that black people are the ones you should be scared of. Black people are so violent. Black people are so angry. Black people are so aggressive. What have we been seeing since 2015, if not white people crashing the fuck out? Marching in the streets with torches like it's 1925, talking about we will not be replaced. Annihilating their entire families, shooting up schools, churches, concert halls, grocery stores, other types of music venues, nightclubs, like all types of shit is coming out now. These poor little white girls, and honestly these little white children in general, have been getting fucking ran through by their fathers, their mothers, their aunties and uncles, granddaddies. Like, you ask the nearest white person sitting next to you if there was some pedophilia going on in their family. at any point in the last 3 generations, I guarantee you they're going to say yes. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that pedophilia doesn't happen or like only happens in white communities, but what I am saying is that white people in particular really try to play that whole perfect act on some like don't worry darling type shit. They walk around like Stepford Wives and shit as if some dark, demonic, dirty shit is not going on behind closed doors in their houses, and they're so quick to point the finger at people of color as if they could never do any wrong. Mind you, some of the worst, most atrocious, inhumane, heinous fucking acts of sexual depravity are going on in white households at every income level. And now we're finally starting to see it. At least these communities of color where crazy shit like that happens, at least they're not trying to walk around acting as if they're like gods walking the earth, trying to position themselves as the moral standard and the cultural standard that everybody else should follow. Like, it's the hypocrisy for me, and that's what I'm trying to say. The myth of American exceptionalism, America's the greatest country on earth, that's been proven false over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, repeatedly, for the past like 10 or 11 years. We do not have the best education. We don't have the best infrastructure. We don't even really have the best culture. Like, our culture revolves around working ourselves to death. Americans aren't even the best at living life. Everybody's waking up to how evil the white evangelical church is. So all of these white Christians who for the past 400 plus years have been the gold standard of morality and character in this country, or they appointed themselves as the gold standard of morality and character in this country. Now we're all seeing how morally bankrupt and fucking rotten white Christians are. But the thing is, black people always knew that white Christians were morally bankrupt and rotten because it was white Christians that did slavery. It wasn't atheists doing slavery. It wasn't fucking Buddhist during slavery. That was a white Christian thing. It was white Christian churches that would make it a church event to lynch a black man or a black woman or a black child. We've always known that there was so much evil and so much dirt and so much like darkness in the white church. We've always known that. But we did not have the sway over public opinion the way that white Americans did. So we couldn't convince anybody. It was just something that we knew among ourselves in the black community. Don't go over there. Those white people are dangerous. Now the whole world is starting to see them for who they are. And it's because of Trump. Trump revealed all of the skeletons in white America's closets. All of them. Literally all of them. How they don't respect the military. They just like really love and fantasize and like jack off to the idea of imperialism and blood. It has nothing to do with military pride. They just really, really, really like the idea of America sticking its dick in everything around the world and then coming home and beating their chest about it. They just worship power. That's what's being revealed. Like, white culture is really just the worship of power and money. And that's why, like, when I was a kid, I was in like high school, and this white girl in my class, I think her name was Katie. Their names are always Katie. This white girl in my class was like, white people don't have any culture. And I was like, what do you mean? You have capitalism. That's like your whole culture. That's your whole thing. That's why when you ride through white neighborhoods, you see all these big ass houses with no blinds, because it's their culture to show off all the shit they have and to flaunt their money and wealth, but in a subtle way so that they don't seem garish about it, so that they're not obnoxious, because that's what the blacks do. Since the Revolutionary War, there's been this myth that America was founded on the principles of independence and freedom and equality for all, which of course, anybody who's ever known anything has always known that that's bullshit, because this country is so far from the land of the free. We hold the majority of the world's prisoners in the land of the free. Like, the hypocrisy, the jokes write themselves. Like, the irony is ironing. But white people have really bought into this idea that America is this like democratic ideal of a country, and that everybody in the world should look up to us. Of course, again, black people always knew that wasn't true. But now that white delusion of America being the most exceptional country on planet Earth is now butting up against the reality that really this entire time America's just been a bully that's been excellent at propaganda and PR. That's one thing we got in the bag, is PR and media. We can put a fucking spin on some shit. America's like Olivia Pope, okay? But not classy and doesn't really have the same moral compass that she does. America is like if Hollis Doyle was Olivia Pope. All of the pillars of modern society that have ever been weaponized against the people in order to keep us in control and keep us in line. And that means the power structure between parents and children, and parents being abusive and controlling and domineering and keeping the children under their thumb. The press, the churches, the politicians, all of these pillars of society are now falling. They are crumbling in front of our eyes, and now people can finally start to see straight, because all of the pillars, all of the tools that they were using to manipulate us don't have the power that they once did. So it's like causing all of this shit to be revealed. All of the illusions are falling. The veil is not even thin anymore. The veil is completely gone. Anybody who can no longer see through the veil that's not there anymore is doing it by their own volition because they just cannot like bring themselves to wake up to reality. All of this is happening and it's making me feel better because for this entire time, Black people have been gaslit to hell and back about what reality is by these colonizers. Because, and I've said this before in my Howard Zinn videos, one of the colonizers' most formidable and fatal weapons is dishonesty. They will rewrite a script, bitch. They will rewrite history. They will reframe the narrative and gaslight the fuck out of you. They will literally restructure truth itself in order to justify their heinous behavior. And that's what they've been doing this whole time, but they can't do it anymore. And you can blame it on social media. You can blame it on the stars and astrology and the Pluto and Aquarius. You can blame it on it being the end days, like Revelation, whatever you want to call it. The jig is fucking up. And it's truly the greatest show on earth. I've never seen anything like this in my life. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen. They can't hide behind their delusions anymore. And even if they do try to hide behind their delusions, everybody around them now knows what they're doing, as opposed to 20 years ago when everybody was in the same collective delusion together, all of the white people anyway. They can't even effectively lie to themselves anymore because lying to yourself doesn't really hit the same when literally everybody around you knows that you're lying to yourself. Now you just look like a malicious asshole. Now you look like you're trying to manipulate everybody around you when really you're just trying to manipulate yourself because you don't want to wake up to the reality of what this country is and always has been. And I'm sitting back and I'm like, ha 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 ha, you all suck, fuck you, because this was always gonna come. This day, this moment of reckoning, America reckoning with her past, present, and future, it was completely inevitable. We were always going to get here. And I am so thankful to be alive when it's happening. Thank God you bitches are waking the fuck up. There's no more pretending. And I love that because I never pretended.